Hello, I'm O Speaks. If you're new here, like, subscribe, share. What's going on, Miss Chicago? The bad guy. What's up, man? Mel Dub, what's going on, sir? I'm trying something. I'm trying to stream, but I don't know if this is going to work. I'm testing something right now. The only way I can really look to see if it's working, I guess, is from my phone. I'm trying to stream from YouTube as well as from StreamYard. Let me see if this is working. I apologize. I've never done this before. I just want to see if this is gonna do anything. Live stream. Huh. Interesting. I can't tell. I think both are open. So I've seen people doing this. It's not a dual live stream. I guess it kind of is. It's streaming to directly to YouTube through the studio as well as through StreamYard. And it looks like it might be working, but I don't know if this is going to record all the info to one place or if it's like doubling the live. I can't tell. I guess I'll find out. We shall see. All right, I'm O Speaks. If you're new here, like, subscribe, share. Today's topic, we're going to be going over Chicago and the National Guard. There was a big ruling yesterday, and let's see. This is really interesting. I think I got it working. Can you guys hear me okay? It's not doubling up or anything funky, because I know if you have two windows of YouTube on, sometimes it can cause issues. But it's muted and paused. I don't know if that's going to pause the whole stream. I am very interested in seeing if this works. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Let's see. Mm, 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 Let me pull this up while I wait for a response from somebody. Pull up the National Guard video. I wonder if you could see what I put up too on here. Anybody hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Just put a 1 if you can hear me, so I know that I can at least get started. Cool, cool. I think it's working. I'm getting a little too complex now. Let's see. Yeah, it looks like it's. I'm just trying to figure out if it's going to the same destination. I guess I'll find that out later, because it looks like it's two separate lives. Anyway, all right. Let me move this out the way, because that's going to confuse the heck out of me. Seeing myself twice. All right. We're going to talk about Chicago officials and how they're fighting to keep illegal aliens. And this is weird. To keep illegal aliens and criminals intact in Chicago, because they like them more than Chicagoans. From Chicago, most people in Chicago are okay with this. I even have some family members who are not okay with this. I think it's something that needs to happen. I warned you guys that this was more about the ICE operations and having backup, and it's like a kind of dual. It's serving a dual purpose. So you have ICE agents, you have the FBI, you have the ATF, you have all these people are working together. They didn't used to really do that. They used to kind of do their own thing. And then what they did was they alerted the police, and then the police are being told that they cannot help. They can't help law enforcement. There was even an incident where we had somebody crash into an ice truck and I guess try to block them in. They call the police. The police said they're not allowed to help. Whatever. It's this is all about to be overturned. There's court cases going on right now. It looks like the appeals courts don't want to deal with it. They're going to just keep passing the buck and hope that the Supreme Court does a ruling on it. With that all said, let's pull this up.
This last time I was on your show, the Democrat Party does not fight for, care about, or represent American citizens. It is an entity devoted exclusively to the defense of hardened criminals, gangbangers, and illegal alien killers and terrorists. The Democrat Party is not a political party. It is a domestic extremist organization. Look at Chicago. They've shut down the police department. They've handcuffed law enforcement. And as President Trump says, they have turned the streets of Chicago into a bloody killing field. Here in Washington, D.C., before President Trump launched the federal law enforcement liberation in D.C., there was a murder on the streets of this town every other day. Body after body after body after body. That was Washington, D.C. Residents were afraid to go to restaurants. They were afraid to go into entire neighborhoods. They were getting carjacked right and left, robbed and beaten. That was Washington, D.C. Now we're 2 weeks homicide free, the safest this city has ever been in its entire history. And the Democrats, instead of jumping up and down and saying, thank you, President Trump, thank you for saving our lives, thank you for saving our cities, thank you for scrubbing away all the graffiti, the trash, the homeless encampments, the druggies, instead of cleaning up the city, instead of thanking him for that, they're saying, President Trump, how dare you save our lives? How dare you save our children? How dare you save our city? The Democrat Party, Sean, that exists today, it disgusts me.
What we got to do, if we really want to see homicides go down, is keep bad guys with guns in jail. Because when they're in jail, they can't be in community shooting people. So when people talk about what we're going to do different or what we should do different, what we need to do different, that's the thing that we need to do different. We need to keep violent people in jail. Right now, the average homicide suspect has been arrested 11 times prior to them committing a homicide. That is a problem. That is a problem.
And we greatly appreciate
11 times is if you really think about how insane that is, that means we had, or the people in Chicago, actually I think that was DC, they had 11 opportunities before somebody, an American citizen, most likely an American citizen, was unalive. I mean, the fact that they're fighting for this is really weird. I don't understand it. Other than they just need to replace the votes. They're losing us. When I say us, I mean they're losing the black demographic, and they're really scrambling to replace the votes. I don't see any other purpose for what they're doing. It's really, really weird. They're not gonna stop. They're doubling, tripling down, even though they lost the election, and they're just gonna, I guess they're just gonna ride with this. They've allowed illegals to vote. Mel and I were going to talk. I don't know what happened. We were supposed to talk about that superintendent, illegal alien. I think he even had a criminal record. I didn't look into it as much as I probably should have. If we were going to do that live, I would have looked into it more. But yeah, there was a superintendent, a school superintendent, who apparently was an illegal alien. And I don't know how that can happen. But anyway, this is Mayor Bowser of DC, who was acknowledging back when they started out over there. Yeah, bad guy. One of the top positions. Where was that? Mel, are you still in here? Where was that? What's going on, Anthony? I believe it was in Ohio. I could be wrong. But anyway, it was a superintendent who was an illegal alien. I don't know how that happens. I don't know how you don't see anything. He ended up getting arrested by ICE because they knew. It's pretty wild. What's going on, Catcher? Let's see. So let's listen to DC's mayor back when they were 2 weeks in at this point, and she had to finally admit, okay, yeah, I guess it did work.
the surge of officers that enhance what MPD has been able to do in this city. The most significant thing that we are highlighting today is the area of crime that was most troubling for us in 2023. Now, we have driven it down over the last years, but I'm going to get my glasses so I can make sure I can see it correctly. But for carjackings, the difference between this period, this 20-day period of this federal surge and last year represents a 87% reduction in carjackings in Washington, D.C.
So that alone should stop the narratives that it doesn't work, it can't work, it won't work in Chicago. Because you just heard her say that the surge directly impacted their carjackings in DC. 80% difference. Yet here you see people in Chicago continuing, the officials, continuing to act like, it can't work, it'll never work. It's the same thing when they were talking about building a wall. Building a wall can't work. You're going to hear Kristi Noem towards the end of my presentation tell you guys how big of an impact they've had on the southern border. It's insane. And really all it says is that if you allow law enforcement to do their jobs, they can be way, way, way more effective than if you defund them. It should be common sense, but that's their talking point. I don't know how they expect it to work, but that's what they believe.
We know that when carjackings go down, when the use of gun goes down, when homicide or robbery go down, neighborhoods feel safer and are safer. So this surge has been important to us for that reason.
She has acknowledged that this has worked. Crime has gone down. People are being arrested. Illegal guns are coming off the streets. And there is apparently some cooperation between a Democrat and a Republican administration, which you're not getting a scintilla of out of Illinois, which I think is a political mistake.
President Trump does have a habit of wrong-footing his political opponents in a unique way on this sort of stuff. There were 574 murders in Chicago last year. And you can make the argument, I think a plausible argument, that National Guard troops should not be on the ground enforcing crime, both legally and just as a matter of general policy. But if the position you end up taking is that there is no serious crime emergency in Chicago on a rhetorical level, not on a legal level, on a rhetorical level, or you make the case that actually crime in Chicago just isn't that big of a deal, which seems to be the mistake that many Democratic politicians are making right now, Trump is going to win that battle all day long.
The president.
And it's interesting because no matter what he says, they are going to, the left, speaking on the left and Democrats, they are going to pick the opposite position no matter what it is. And you've heard people joke about it when they say, he could be for, or he could be for cancer, curing cancer, and they would be against it. There actually is, he was talking about, I think he was trolling. I hope he was trolling. He's talking about taking guns away from the T's in the alphabet mafia. And they started talking about gun rights for trans people. No matter what he says, they're going to take the opposite position. And he's clearly learned that. Now he's starting to take advantage of it. He's got these people defending criminals and illegals. It's awesome. I love watching it because all it's doing is hurting them politically.
In the United States has mentioned New York as another city he wants to look at to deploy National Guard troops. Do you think that's the best use of federal taxpayer dollars? And are you comfortable with that happening in your state?
Well, crime has been a major problem in New York for years, and Kathy Hochul and Albany and New York City Democrats have failed miserably to tackle this crime crisis.
Do you want National Guard troops?
By the way, Kathy Hochul has mobilized National Guard's troops to go into the subway system because of the crime in the subway system. So that has been done, obviously, for the purpose of surging resources and trying to prevent crime. Yeah. When you look at the fact that in New York City, for instance, 80% of gun crimes do not result in a conviction or prosecution, that 80% of these individuals are released back out onto the street despite using guns in the commission of a crime. You look at Washington, D.C., 1.7% of gun crime convictions result in jail time. So when Democrats talk about gun violence, how come they don't want to actually prosecute and enforce the law against criminals who are using guns in the commission of a crime?
No, but that's a local problem, that's a local issue that would need to get changed. But in terms of the question on the troops, you'd rather troops
Margaret,
than FBI agents or ATF agents or DEA agents. You don't want federal agents who are trained law enforcement officers in New York City. You would rather National Guardsmen who have to be trained to police.
I think the Democrats are hemorrhaging voters.
And I don't know why they take that position, or they're not trained to do this. It's more for them about presence and allowing the police to do their job, and allowing ICE to do their job, and allowing the ATF and FBI and all these other people to do their own jobs. They're not out there arresting people. They may have to detain people because we see crazy, insane, lunatic Antifa people spitting on ICE officers, spitting on ATF agents and all that, but that's not what the National Guard's there for. The National Guard is there to create a deterrent, a presence, and if they have to act, they will. So this weird thing about their training and all that, they've been doing this. That's what they do. That's what the National Guard is. So it's not a good talking point. If you want to make the argument, you make a constitutional argument, separation between feds and states. But that argument that she just made is horrible.
Because they've chosen all the wrong constituencies. They seem to care more about illegal aliens than American citizens, violent criminals than law-abiding citizens, and the Palestinian flag more than the American flag.
8 of the top 10 murder states in this country, red states. What bullshit.
So classic Newsom just on social media. He comes out and goes, I don't know what Trump is talking about. 8 out of 10 of the top state murder rates are in red states, which he was right. That is true.
Right.
But of course, when you go and then look at what the cities are, 9 out of 10 are Democrat, and the only one that's not Democrat just switched to Republican 6 months ago, and it's on its way down.
Yeah, it's all the cities that are Democrat run.
Such a classic Newsom manipulation. He doesn't know the bullshit he's spewing. It's really wild to see him do that.
Well, all he has is manipulation of numbers and statistics and workarounds. That's all he really has. You know, when you don't have the truth, that's about all you got. It's interesting that he's going to go, sort of try this on the world stage now. We'll see if people are, I don't know if the word is dumb enough, but something enough to buy into that.
Keep that in mind when you hear them talking about red versus blue crime. Because yes, you'll see that in the states that have Republican governors. But when you get down to the cities, they're all Democrat. And like you heard Dr. Drew just say, the one that is not Democrat just turned Republican 6 months ago. They've had zero time to improve anything. So when you hear people using those talking points, it's all a game to them. They're just playing word games. They have no interest in helping the Black community. They have no interest in helping Hispanic communities. They want to flood with criminals as long as they can get votes, and then they can run on solving the problem of crime. It's sounds cynical, but it's not. This is what they've been doing for 20 years now, at least 20 years now.
Threatening Chicago with 2 things. One, a surge of federal resources, so ICE, CPB, other federal agents. So that's bucket number 1. Bucket number 2 would be the National Guard. I still think regardless of what happens in the courts on the National Guard, they're going to be surging other federal resources into Chicago, specifically to deal with the illegal immigration problem. So don't know how the court case is going to play out. Obviously, the Ninth Circuit has overruled this district court judge before. But I talked to the president today. He had a press conference in the Oval, and I'm just telling you, he is intent on doing anything and everything he can to get into the city of Chicago.
But unfortunately, we do not have the luxury of time. We have received credible reports that we have days, not weeks, before our city sees some type of militarized activity by the federal government. It is unclear at this time what that will look like exactly. We may see militarized immigration enforcement. We may also see National Guard troops. We may even see active duty military and armed vehicles in our streets. We have not called for this. Our people have not asked for this, but nevertheless, we find ourselves having to respond to this. Let me be absolutely clear. Although we believe the reports we have received are highly credible, this is an erratic, impulsive administration, and it is not always possible to understand and know exactly how he will move.
This is Mayor Brandon Johnson of Chicago. I didn't think it could get worse than Lori Lightfoot until I saw this guy in action. This sounds like a call to action. This doesn't sound like he's doing a press conference on how the National Guard and ICE are going to be coming to Chicago. He's saying we have credible information. I have it on like it's a weird way that he's phrasing it. This is the kind of thing that causes people to act out, and he knows that. That's why he's doing it. That's when you see all the crazy leftist Antifa people coming into the cities. No matter where it is, they're going to come to the cities and just destroy. That's what they do. But this is him calling them to action. He's making it sound like war is coming. We don't know how they're going to come. They're going to come militarized. They're going to do this. This is how you end up with people ramming into ICE vehicles and boxing them in, trying to kill them. Because people like him say stuff like he's saying it in the tone that he's saying it, as if he's concerned. Not that it's coming to stop crime. He's concerned that they're going to be in his city and they're going to show, like they did with Mayor Bowser in DC, that crime actually can be stopped. That's where this desperation is coming from. They're literally suing just so they don't get exposed for not doing their jobs, because they don't want to do their jobs. They need the votes.
He could change his mind. He could reverse course. In fact, I encourage him to do that. But still, we take these threats seriously, and we find ourselves in a position where we must take immediate, drastic action to protect our people from federal overreach. I'm signing an executive order today that will launch the Protecting Chicago initiative. This order affirms that the Chicago Police Department will not collaborate with military personnel on police patrols or civil immigration enforcement. We will not have our police officers, who are working hard every single day to drive down crime, deputized to do traffic stops and checkpoints for the president. This order affirms the CPD officers will be directed to wear CPD uniforms and refrain from wearing masks so that residents can clearly distinguish them from federal agents. We do not want to see tanks in our streets. We do not.
So again, he's trying to scare people. What's going on, KMC? He's trying to scare people. Tanks in the streets? Is that really what we're doing here? This is a call to action. And it's dangerous. And I haven't seen people talking about this, what he's saying right here. This is how you get people, this is how you create a revolution. That's what it seems like he's trying to do in the city of Chicago. That's why you had people waiting for the National Guard to get there. You have them attacking ICE officers. You have them attacking the federal buildings. Because leaders like this guy is saying that there's going to be tanks in the streets, making it sound like they're about to get rounded up. And what, put in concentration camps?
We want to see families ripped apart. We do not want grandmothers thrown into the back of unmarked vans.
You see what he's doing? This is so dangerous. This is so dangerous what he's doing. You have people who think they're going to be heroes for attacking law enforcement. So dangerous.
We don't want to see homeless Chicagoans harassed or disappeared by federal agents. We don't want to see Chicagoans arrested for sitting on their porch. That's not who we are as a city, and that's not who we are as a nation.
In April, investigators found the body of 37-year-old Megan Boss in a container on Mendoza Gonzalez's property. She'd been missing for nearly 2 months.
Mendoza Gonzalez was released to his home after his arrest. The charges didn't qualify for pretrial detainment under Illinois' Safety Act.
He had her in his backyard in a trash can for 2 months and went on with his life as if nothing happened.
Megan's mom, Jennifer, was at the White House last week for a signing ceremony of an anti-fentanyl bill and told the president about her daughter's case. 3 days later, ICE agents took Mendoza Gonzalez into custody for being in the country illegally, and he's now facing deportation.
I hope that she sees that I'm fighting for her.
Jennifer says she's convinced nothing would have happened in her case if it weren't for President Trump.
I didn't look up what that Chicago Safety Act is, but clearly it has nothing to do with safety because they literally let this guy out after he got arrested. Should have been deported. I mean, just being charged with something like that is outrageous. But 2 months, this girl's body was in his backyard in a container or a trash can. Like, how is that helping the citizens of Chicago? What's going on, Ms. Baker? How does that help anybody? Having an illegal alien unalive somebody, leave them in their backyard, and go on about their life as if he's really a citizen. And you heard Brandon Johnson acting as if this is what we want to prevent. We don't want ICE here. But they caught this guy and they let him go. It's a travesty. And I made a post the other day. About I put any crime committed by an illegal alien is worse than any crime committed by an American citizen, meaning you guys can jaywalk. You jaywalking is not as bad as an illegal alien jaywalking. This goes for assault, battery, robbery, armed robbery, strong arm robbery, burglary. If an American citizen commits any of those crimes, it's still not as bad as an illegal alien committing those crimes. And the reason why I posted that is because people don't seem to understand that we know who we are. We all have a social security number. We all can be tracked through our purchases. We are citizens of this country. We don't know who any of these people are, not one of them. So the odds of you getting caught for doing a crime is much, 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 much higher than an illegal alien because either they have a fake name or we don't know at all who they are. They don't even have that. They can give you any name. They have no ID. They have nothing. They're not documented at all. So when I hear undocumented immigrants, no, they're illegal aliens. They're here illegally. They don't have any, we don't have any idea who these people are. And the only reason ICE has an understanding of who they are is because they committed a crime here. And they could track your student loans, KMC. Yeah. But these guys, they can do anything they want. If you get into a hit and run with KMC and she hits my car, I can ask her for her ID. If she drives off, we can trace her registration back to her. You can't do that with an illegal alien. They have nothing. Or they have KMC's information and the police come looking for her. So she's a victim and she wasn't even there. Any crime that is committed by an illegal alien is worse than any crime identical to one that you guys commit. And they act as if these are just innocent people, grandma sitting on the front porch. No, that's not what this is. They're looking for illegal aliens, people who are not supposed to be here. Identity theft is the #1 crime in this country and has been for years. The main people doing it are illegal aliens. We're not talking about people who overstay their visas because you can track them because they came here legally. They overstayed and now they're illegal. That's not the same thing. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about people who've crossed into this country illegally. No one knows who they are. They could have, if they even bothered to check in with the Border Patrol at a port of entry, we don't know if they gave their real name. We have no idea. That's the whole process. They have a court date, they have a hearing, they step before the judge, they discuss this, who are you? You tell them who you are, and then they determine whether or not you can stay. But until then, you have anybody just roaming the country, going wherever they want, doing whatever they want to do. Worst case scenario, they go home. They're literally incentivized to commit crimes, and they get welfare, they get the EBT, They say they pay taxes, but they don't pay income tax. They pay sales taxes and they pay consumer taxes. Because they're working illegally, they don't pay income tax. Were they filing it to the IRS? No. So they're not. Every time you hear these are tax-paying migrants, they're not migrants. They traveled here against the laws of this country. They're illegal aliens. They are not following any laws. When they get here, they've already committed several crimes if they're working. Because they shouldn't be working. They shouldn't be here.
I am so grateful that he stopped and looked at me when I hollered out at him, because I was starting to feel really hopeless about this case.
You have stated over and over and over again that you don't want ICE in Chicago. If that had been Stacy, if that had been your wife Stacy Spotty, that had been decapitated, abused.
That's not an appropriate question, yeah.
It's a very
That's not appropriate.
Real people, the people of Chicago are asking me to ask you this very specific question. Had that been your wife Stacy, would you want ICE to pick up this illegal alien?
I'm not going to entertain your question.
You're not going to answer. Well,
not going to entertain.
My follow-up question is regarding.
I actually believe that what you're saying is quite threatening.
What?
It's quite threatening.
Really?
Can we move on to the next person here?
Excuse me.
So to avoid answering the question, he pretends that he's threatened by him asking. That's the first question everybody asks. It's the first question anybody asks. Would you be okay if that were your kid? He just asked, would you be okay if that were your wife? And he's saying that's a threat. Meanwhile, that young lady was in this guy's backyard for 2 months. But you can't ask him, hey, what if that happened to you? Can you empathize at all? Is there any possibility that you can put yourself in that mother's shoes? Nah, you're threatening me. It's a joke.
But no,
and if you continue to behave in such a way, we'll just make sure that we take the appropriate steps. You are threatening and provocative.
How dare you ask me that? Now, people call Trump a dictator. He takes on all questions. That guy refuses to answer because it makes him feel uncomfortable. Anyone who has a victim in their family, that's the first thing we think of. When an officer or a doctor or anybody comes and asks you how you doing, what do you mean, how am I doing? How would you feel? That's the first thing we do.
It's been reported that Chicago has had one of the highest murder rates. Okay? Black on black crimes for the party that loves to promote Black Lives Matter. We didn't hardly hear anything about all of those killings that were reportedly happening in Chicago weekend after weekend. But don't let it be a white cop on the black guy, because we gonna hear that nonstop. Because y'all love to run that division, because that's how y'all keep us going against each other and staying in power. We know that it was nicknamed Chirac for a reason, because it was like a war zone. And like President Trump, they're saying there should not be any inner city in this country that looks like a war zone. I mean, y'all don't have no problem taking billions and billions of dollars overseas under the guise of humanitarian aid, but you can't even do nothing for your own darn cities. And then when you have a man that's stepping up, trying to get the crime rate under control, trying to close the borders, trying to do more for the citizens of the country, all of a sudden, all y'all can do is go to court.
We are not thinking about Pritzker or Brandon Johnson. We just had 4 mass shootings in the span of 1 month. 14 people got shot and 4 dead. We just had senior citizens laying shot, bleeding in the streets. And let's not.
Let me say this. Because another thing you always hear is that white people commit all the mass shootings. They don't count gang violence in that. Don't you think that's weird? That would make up majority of all the mass shootings in this country, but for some reason, that doesn't count. Yeah, well, we can count that as a mass shooting. Well, was it more than 2 people? Yeah. That's a mass shooting by definition, right? No, it's gang violence. We put that in a different bucket. They don't want to deal with it. They want us to be offended if you say something like that. But that's literally all the mass shoot. I won't say literally all of it. You get one school shooting here. You get church shootings. those happen what? 3 times a year? Every single day there is a mass shooting, whether it's successful, that's a whole different thing. But in the city of Chicago, if you go over off of 63rd and Damon, or even 59th and Damon, and you just stand there, you will hear gunshots at night. You will. It's guaranteed. Every night. But for some reason, we won't consider that a mass shooting. They never talk about whether or not it's successful. I don't know why. Because if you just had a shooting, then lump that in with gang violence. Why do you have to include it? Why does it only have to be white people that are accused of this? I guess that's my main point. It's so weird. Yeah, there's a couple of them, Mel. Mel said there was a mass shooting at a high school game in Mississippi. There was a few of them. I think there was like 3 or 4 of them. But doesn't count. As soon as they see, it's like when they see our skin color, oh man, let them, that's what they do. Let them do that. It's evil if you really think about it. Why is it a bigger deal if white kids get shot than if our kids get shot? Why are their lives prioritized? We'll look at it and say, oh, well, yeah, JonBenet Ramsey. Oh, yeah, it's because she's white. But we completely ignore that it doesn't count when our kids get killed. Why do we do that? Why do we allow that? How insulting is that your kids don't count? Because it's not white people who do that. Well, it's white liberals who do that. But we do the same thing. And we'll even say, well, had that been a black kid, there would be no coverage. So we know what's happening, but we won't acknowledge it. When it comes time to actually acknowledge it, we'll allow a white person to sit there and repeatedly say that mostly white people, and Don Lemon, of course, mostly white people commit these mass shootings all over the country. No, it's not. It's not.
Forget the gentleman who we saw who was on Facebook Live get robbed and shot while he was sitting in his car. So we don't care about anything these people are saying. Tell Brandon Johnson and Pritzker, if Chicago is so safe with Brandon Johnson especially, let's leave his 150 police detail. Fire them and walk around with no police detail. And Pritzker, no security. Come in my community, the south side of Chicago.
You could take 3 officers. She said he has 150. I don't know if his detail's that big. If it is, that's so absurd. You could take 3 of them, put them on the corner of Damon, 59th, 60th, 61st, 62nd, 63rd. You just now cover all of West Inglewood and just have them walk. No one's going to do anything to them. Contrary to what these people are saying when there's threatening ICE, you come here, we're going to do this. The only people who are going to do that is Antifa. The gangbangers are not going to do anything. Maybe over on 26th Street. They may have an issue over there because they're crazy over there. That's an all Hispanic area. They fight police all the time. But you're not going to see it in black neighborhoods because we want the police presence. We don't want them harassing us, obviously, but we want the presence there. Harass the right people. Go harass them. Don't bother my kid. But for whatever reason, he can have I find it really hard to believe he has 150. But even if he has 30, you can spread them out in Inglewood on the south side of Chicago. You can go from Damon all the way east. And you would have no issues. Not no issues, but the presence alone will allow kids to come out and actually play. Hey, look at that. Kids can go to the park. We used to, when I was in retail, the police would leave a dummy car in our parking lots. I would request it. Nobody else did it. I don't know why they never did. That was part of me when I used to clean up stores. First thing I would do is contact the police and say, hey, can you just park a squad car in my parking lot? Nobody has to sit there in it. Just park the car in there. And you would be amazed how many people would be scared to come in and steal. There definitely wouldn't be any robbers. There'd still be people stupid enough to do it. But it would drop the theft by, I don't know, I used to get, every day I used to have to call the police. I would say, we'll say I would catch 3 people a day. It would literally go to 0.5. maybe one a day. Just by having the car there. There doesn't even have to be an officer in the store. They don't know that. They just see the car like, oh, we can't go into this store. We go to the next one. That it works. So when you hear about the National Guard, they're just going to be a presence. If you did what she just said and take the detail away from the president, from the mayor, he's not worried about crime. So let him walk around. Let him deal with it. He's not going to be on the south side anyway. Just have them patrol. That's all we need on the south side of Chicago in the black neighborhoods. Hispanic ones are going to be a little bit tougher. You need a much larger presence. You definitely do.
Come over there and let's see you say how safe it is. You can't even sit in your car long. If you sit in your car, you know that it's a chance you're going to get carjacked, robbed, or shot. So tell him to come around in my neck of the woods and talk that.
You all sit up there and said you will not allow Trump to come in here and get these illegals. Yeah, you can smile. We're in $1 billion deficit. And you spent half of our money, half of that on illegals. You campaign and double down that you would not raise property taxes.
I won't raise your property taxes.
You wanted to raise our taxes $300 million. They shut it down. Now we back here for $150 million. Okay. See, this is what we asking now. Since you want to crash out, some of y'all say y'all willing to go to jail for it. Trump, Tom Homan, make an example out this right here first. Please come here first. Spend our tax dollars to go. Michael Rodriguez, you said to take Trump to court to protect these illegals. That's cool because we about to make all of y'all aldermen famous. Y'all think this is how it's gonna ride? I think not. Flip Chicago red. We not playing.
This was going to happen to you. You got Cash Patel and Pam Bundy that you're going to have to deal with sooner than later. Then it's going to be an audit. Next, it's going to be an investigation. Then it's going to be an indictment. Conviction. That's what's going to happen to you.
You so strong about protecting those aliens, but you won't do nothing for the U.S. citizens.
Won't you just practice what you preach? Remove all the details. We saw you coming in today. You had all the police presence. So let's take some of that away.
My first reaction was that this is a good thing. I think that the governor as well as the mayor should be on board with it just so we can get a bit more of security in Chicago the way that we need. The crime.
Yeah, the bad guy, he doesn't care. He's got resting douche face. So you look at him, it's just like, you just want to smack that. He's got a real smackable face. Real smackable face. And yeah, KMC said, I understand, I found out that's why the Georgia police, specifically in DeKalb County, ride around with the blues on. It's to deter crime. Yeah. Just seeing them there, it's like, oh man. Everybody stops. That's all they gotta do. But again, you go deal with them 2-6 and Latin Kings and Ambrose and all. That's a whole different story. But in the black neighborhoods, just have a presence. You'd be amazed at how much they can deter crime.
Has dropped since 2024. Do you feel like the city feels safer?
No, not at all. No, especially with the police being defunded.
And it's also because.
And gosh, I've gone over this. So I'm not going to go into great detail on this, but they just stop reporting crimes and then they say, look, crime's gone down. We're doing such a great job. They just don't report them, or they reclassify them as something else. So they downgrade the crimes. That's what they do. So you have a bunch of people running around with lesser charges, but they're criminals. But they downgrade it or just don't charge them at all or don't do anything. 80%? That's insanity. That was DC, I believe. It used to be like that in Chicago. Now I think it's like 50. Half the people, you have a 50-50 chance of getting caught if you unalive somebody in the city of Chicago. And if you get caught, I think there's a 60% chance you're going to get off. It makes no sense.
The military serves a role to protect Americans, not to be used against Americans.
Exactly. You keep saying used against Americans. What kind of Americans do you mean? The ones that are murdering us, carjacking us, raping us, terrorizing our cities? I mean, you're saying like he's creating an actual war against American citizens when what he's actually creating is a war against criminals and, by the way, illegal aliens who they are rounding up by the bucket load in Washington.
I want to let Ellie...
Of course politics is going on here. I mean, you said that they should be asking for federal resources, but that would be an admission that they have lost control of their cities.
That's
so
not losing
Brandon
control.
Johnson,
I mean,
Chris
no.
Freeman, that would be an admission they've lost control.
The mayor of D.C. asked for federal resources too. She was trying to.
But Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago, said, "I don't want more police," and he even said today, "We don't even want to put people in prison."
But this is what I'm telling you.
I mean,
I'm telling you that Democrats should think about potentially asking for more resources. What I'll say here is that.
I agree with you, but they won't.
But it's also not handing over the entire city to the federal government. What happens is that the mayor and the local law enforcement should be in charge, and they should have the federal law enforcement supplement and provide training as needed. It shouldn't be that the National Guard and federal law enforcement should take over a city that they do not understand, that they do not know, that the community doesn't understand. That just leads to chaos.
How many people don't understand crime? But like I'm telling you, these talking points are so weak now because they're literally having to make a case to allow crime to happen. So the arguments are going to be weak. If the police were that capable, they wouldn't need the National Guard to come in and do anything. If they were capable, they would be able to hire. They can't hire because there's demoralization. The law enforcement, the police unions, do not trust the public officials in the city of Chicago. That's what it is. They don't trust them, so they just like, I'm gonna retire early, or I'm gonna retire when I'm supposed to. They're not gonna stay and do anything. Why would they stay and deal with this? You arrest somebody, you are putting yourself at risk to be sued civilly because the city of Chicago not only wants to push the blame on you no matter what, but they're going to throw you completely under the bus. And if you don't do your job, they're going to reinforce and terminate you. Retire as soon as you can, get out of there. But a lot of people came back from retirement, especially when it came to ICE, when Trump got in office. Because they know, okay, we can actually do our jobs, and we're not going to be the ones who get held accountable for somebody else doing something to me. Somebody can attack you, and you can't do anything back. What's going on, Henry?
Military is not supposed to be used for ordinary law enforcement purposes. In D.C., he was talking about cleaning up the graffiti and, dealing with the blight of homelessness, which are obviously local, not federal issues. And he's trying to militarize our society, intimidate his political opponents. The whole idea of picking cities based on their partisan leadership is absurd. I mean, there are lots of Republican cities and towns struggling with crime. Everybody is across the country. Always. Crime has always been part of our history. And yet crime is down. In D.C., for example, it's at a 30-year low. It's down in Baltimore. It's down in Chicago. But the point is that in our system of federalism, the different branches of government and the different departments of government are supposed to work together. If Donald Trump thinks he's got some great ideas for Chicago or Miami or Houston, Texas, or whatever, he should call a summit for the White House and say, hey, here's some ideas where the feds can work together with states and localities, not have a series of rolling National Guard invasions of people's cities.
I don't think it's accurate that in your open you refer to it as Trump's military occupation. When Governor Hochul here in New York put the National Guard in the subways and in some crime-ridden areas, I don't think we referred to it as military occupation. Why? I ride the subways. I loved when they were there. I mean, law-abiding citizens love that. Are you kidding me? I wish there were more police officers and have one in every single car in the subway at every platform. We can't. That's why Governor Hochul said we're going to put them out and around. Law-abiding citizens, I don't see them objecting or looking to it as like it's a takeover by the military. I'm walking down the street. I walk out of my law firm at 1 o'clock in the morning in Midtown Manhattan, and I see a military guy there. You think I'm upset about that, or am I thrilled about it?
Would you all? Yeah, Don Lemon, he doesn't understand. So I started making videos, and I'm gonna start just releasing. They're short videos, 8 minutes to 15 minutes. And I have one on Don Lemon. It's just me insulting Don Lemon for like 8 minutes straight. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I did the two live streams on April Chapman going at Candace Owens really oddly. I chopped those up. I'm gonna do a premiere every day this week. I'm gonna do one premiere on April Chapman. I condensed down the live streams that I did to just her incoherent rambling and my proving her wrong. So I chopped those up and I'm gonna be releasing those as premieres all this week. I'll probably do one later on today. Yeah, I'll do one later on today, and then I'll every day this week. So the first two are from the first live, the second two are from the second live. She was just and the good thing about that is you don't have to sit for the whole live stream. It's 15 minutes, it's condensed, and like I said, I edited it up so you guys can see exactly how horrible of a human being she was being. I don't know if she's a bad person, but she was being nasty.
So like to get federal funding to help put 5,000 more cops on the street in Chicago. Would that help drive down crime?
Well, look, policing by itself is not the full strategy.
No, I understand that. You talked about the other things you want, and I said those are good and important programs, but I'm asking also, would 5,000 more police officers on the street in Chicago be helpful to go along with all of those social programs that a lot of cities are engaging in and having success with?
Well, look, here's the best way I can put it, Joe, is that in the 90s when I was in high school, we had 3,000 more police officers and we had 900 people being murdered every single year in Chicago. It's just not policing alone. Of course, we want more detectives.
I know it's not policing alone, but I know it's not policing alone. You've told me everything else you want. I'm curious, and this does come down to an ideological difference between people. Do you believe that the streets of Chicago would be safer if there were more uniformed police officers on the streets of Chicago?
I believe the city of Chicago and cities across America would be safer if we actually had, affordable housing. Look.
He can't just answer the question because, again, it leads to questions about his failure. You know how bad of a politician on the left you have to be for Joe Scarborough to go in on you? So if you get housing, then crime will just magically end. Because it's all homeless people committing crimes, according to him. This guy's he's so dumb.
That's not the question I asked. My question is, and I just need a yes or a no, do you believe the streets of Chicago would be safer if you got all of those other extraordinary programs put back into place, which do have a history of being successful, if that's complemented by having 5,000 more cops on the streets of Chicago?
I don't believe that we should narrow it down to just police officers, Joe, is what I'm saying. That is an antiquated approach. I'm saying we've invested in detectives.
Mr. Mayor, are you hearing what I'm saying? I'm agreeing with you that all of these other social programs are extraordinarily important. I just need a yes or a no, and then this will be the last time I ask. If you get all of those other social programs that 800 million that New York City does, Los Angeles, other people do with great success, would an additional 5,000 cops on the streets in Chicago help complement those programs to make Chicago safer?
Look, we are working hard to make sure that our police department is fully supported. I don't believe that just simply putting out an arbitrary number around police officers is the answer. What I'm saying is policing and affordable housing. It's policing and mental and behavioral health care services. It's policing and youth employment. It's a full package. Of course, we want to make sure that our police department is fully supported. That's why I've invested in our Detectives Bureau, because what we have seen in the city of Chicago, when we solve crime, it acts and serves as a deterrent. It's policing and all of the other efforts that we're doing. Here's the last thing that I'll say to that.
How many times does he have to say, I understand all of the extra stuff that you're doing. What about police? I would have went extreme. I would say if 1 million police officers were in the streets of Chicago, would it be safe? Force him to understand, because if he says yes, then you can go down and say, okay, well, what about 200,000? Yes, and just keep going down until he reaches the number that he's comfortable with. But if the answer is none, you have a problem. Because if you said 1 million police officers, he has to say yes, or he can do what he's doing, I guess. But any honest person watching would be like, "You're telling me 1 million police officers would not help a city be safer?" But he doesn't. He doesn't want to answer that question because it speaks to his failures on hiring and turnover. That's what it speaks to. Even 5,000 is an absurd number. Of course, it would make it safer. So up the number. Okay, I would just kept going up. Okay, what about 10,000, Mr. Mayor? No, okay. What about 20,000? I would just kept going up. At some point, he's going to look so absurd for refusing to answer. The people can decide at home. Wow, he doesn't think 10,000 new officers or 20,000 new officers would help get rid of crime. So he just doesn't like police. He refuses to answer the question because he does not. He wants to defund the police.
The federal government could work stronger to coordinate with my police department to get guns off the streets of Chicago. We've seen these coordination efforts work. Just a couple of weeks ago, the ATF working with my police department, we removed over 150 guns off the streets of Chicago that were trafficked in through Mississippi and Indiana. No one is saying that police officers don't play an incredible role in driving safety. They play an absolute pivotal role in that. But we have asked law enforcement to do too much. Police officers are being asked to be social workers, counselors. What I'm simply saying is, if we're going to build safe and affordable cities across America, the one thing that safe communities all have in common, they invest in people. We have a poverty issue in the city of Chicago and cities across America. Police officers alone will not put food on the table.
Without my
How many times did he have to say not alone? But he won't. He's a scumbag. He will not answer. He will not answer. It's pretty insane. It's pretty insane. All right, bad guy, take it easy, man. But police officers alone. Okay, why do you keep saying alone when Joe gave you all your concessions, but you will not answer because you don't like police? And he made it perfectly clear right then and there. He doesn't like police. Because it's going to make him look bad if the streets get cleaned up. Because it'll happen overnight, just like DC. It happened overnight. What they say? Well, yeah, it's not the National Guard doing it. It's the police. Yes. They are allowing the police to do their jobs because there's extra bodies. But anyone who says, you guys pick any job, McDonald's. If you had 30 employees working at McDonald's, would you get your food faster? Yeah. That's how it works. It has to be effective.
Permission and against my vigorous objections, the president has federalized 300 Illinois National Guard military troops and hundreds of National Guard members from Texas, and he has ordered them to activate for duty in Illinois.
Oh, no.
I have called upon Governor Abbott to immediately withdraw his support for this decision and refuse to allow Texas National Guard members to be used in this way. Let me be clear. Donald Trump is using our service members as political props and as pawns in his illegal effort to militarize our nation's cities.
This morning, I filed a lawsuit challenging the unlawful deployment of the National Guard troops to Illinois, including the Illinois National Guard, the call for the Texas National Guard. And my lawyers have just, as the governor updated you, were just in court arguing these actions. The American people, regardless of where they reside, should not live under the threat of occupation by the United States military.
Who's under threat? Grandma sitting on the porch, or the thief, the carjacker, the gunman, They don't want them. They don't want them. This is so crazy. This is so crazy. They don't want police there. They don't want to resolve the issue. Yeah, sounded like he was about to cry.
Ruling came down as Texas National Guard members neared the end of their first full day in Broadview. Anti-ICE protesters reacting cautiously.
I'm glad for the short-term win. I think we're all concerned about the long-term here and what's going to happen.
Federal Judge April Perry granting the state's request for a temporary restraining order, blocking the Trump administration from deploying in Illinois National Guard troops from any state.
This is an important decision, not just for the state of Illinois, but for the entire country.
Justice Department lawyers had argued ICE and other federal agents faced escalating violence, citing allegations in which agents were kicked and punched and had their vehicles rammed, even referencing an incident possibly seen here in which a protester pulled the hairs from an agent's beard. But Judge Perry said those claims of an out-of-control public on the brink of rebellion were simply not credible.
She did not believe the testimony through affidavits of the federal officials who are painting a picture, evidently, of violence in the street. She just simply didn't believe it.
Lawyers for the state said the president's repeated.
How do you not believe it? It was on the news. They have it on video of a car ramming into an ICE vehicle and driving them until they were barricaded. And then they hit them with another, like, what do you mean you don't believe it? How is that not credible? It couldn't get more credible. It's almost as if she doesn't watch anything on TV. You haven't seen all the tear gas that they've had to shoot at these people because they're literally blocking federal agents from doing their jobs. You didn't hear the stand down call. The police chief in Chicago was really mad about that. I got to give him credit. I still don't like him, but I got to give him at least credit for being he was mad. He was really mad because the call didn't come from him. So hopefully they find out who did that. But apparently, ICE called the police when they were being barricaded in by another car, and the car literally got hit. And they called for backup, and the police refused to come. Said they could not come and assist. So the mayor is saying, "Well, we're not supposed to. We don't interact with federal law enforcement." And the chief of police was mad. He said, "No, we don't let any officer sit there in danger and not help." So I expect him to probably get fired because he spoke the truth. But you have to be evil to say no when somebody's asking for help, saying we are under threat. You have to be. Why would you say no? What is the circumstances that would make you say, nah, you're good. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. Because when you hit the vehicle, you are already at that point, you're in danger. They're imposing themselves on your vehicle and on you, and you have to assume they're going to do something to hurt you. It's pure evil. This is what I was saying earlier. It seems as if they want this to happen. That doesn't seem like it. It's pretty clear to me. And then when we do kill each other, they just sit there and they'll say they'll just chalk it up to gang violence, or they'll say it was I don't know, mutual combat. You guys remember that one shooting that happened? It was on video. It was on the south side of Chicago. They had several angles. I think there was like 50 rounds fired. I did a video on it. And the AG of Cook County said it was mutual combat. Bullets flying everywhere, hitting homes. Nobody died, so it's mutual combat. They didn't arrest. They arrested people and let them go. That's how you get your shooting statistics down. Right there. That's how you do it. You just ignore crime and act like it's not happening. Yeah, it's horrible, man. It's horrible. I don't know if you were in here, Mike Levin, when earlier a young lady was unalived by an illegal alien, put in a container in his backyard for 2 months. They found the body, and a reporter asked the mayor, "Hey, what if that was your wife? Would you want ICE to have come and got this guy before this could happen?" He said he was threatening him and threatened to kick him out of the press conference. It's evil. It really is evil.
comments about crime being the reason for the Guard deployment contradicted DOJ statements that they would only be used to protect agents.
They claim this is not about crime, while at the same time the president says this is only about crime. They cannot get their story straight.
The Trump administration planning an appeal, the White House saying President Trump will not turn a blind eye to the lawlessness plaguing American cities, and we expect to be vindicated by a higher court.
The administration, in fact, is looking to expand ICE operations here. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem confirming today that her department is buying more buildings in the Chicago area.
More than 1,500 people have been arrested in Illinois since the Department of Homeland Security launched the operation.
Crazy.
DHS reported that those arrested include pedophiles, gang members, and armed robbers. The operation is being described as a major effort to make Illinois safer for residents and communities. As per the Trump administration,
the level of evil of the people that they're catching, they post every time they catch one of these people, they post it on X and on Facebook. If you want to look, it's like immigration. The Operation Blitz is, man, they're catching a lot of people. It's immigration. Let me look it up. So so it's ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. They're showing every time they catch these people, they're posting it. So you'll see stuff like this. They're showing and then they'll break it down and show individual arrests and what they were arrested for and what they did. It's oh, this is good. This guy posted. He got hit with some. He got hit with those beanbags do some damage, huh? Some rubber bullets are no joke. Woo. Well, don't step in front of a car and you won't get hit. Don't step in front of a gun and you won't get shot. Just saying.
the increased activity aims to remove dangerous criminals from local streets. The DHS emphasized that this crackdown is part of a broader nationwide enforcement initiative. Law enforcement said that Operation Midway Blitz demonstrates a renewed commitment to public safety. The authorities have warned of similar actions in other states to curb violent crime linked to illegal immigration.
As you know, the Department of Homeland Security is tasked with making sure that we have a secure border, which we have overwhelmingly been successful.
Yeah, that's the guy. It's a older white gentleman. That's the one that Mayor Johnson threatened to remove him from the press conference because he asked him, "Hey, how would you feel if that was somebody in your family, your wife?" And he said that was a threat. Such a joke.
By President Trump's direction at making sure we're enforcing our laws in this country, that the rule of law matters and that it applies equally to everybody. We have had for 3 months in a row 0 illegal aliens entering the United States, which is the first time in this nation's history that we've seen that kind of security at our nation's border. Also, we've been working on getting dangerous criminal illegal aliens out of our country. Murderers, rapists, drug traffickers, human traffickers, going out, arresting them and removing them from our communities so that our families can be safe again at night. Our top priorities have been these 2 items: securing our borders and arresting dangerous criminals and removing them from our cities and our towns and our states across the country from coast to coast. Since President Trump has taken office, we have arrested hundreds of thousands of these illegal criminals. I'm here today because the elected leaders in this state of Illinois are ignoring the law. In fact, they're being obstructionists when it comes to getting dangerous criminals off of their streets. They are deciding that dangerous criminals that are murderers, rapists, money launderers, have committed assault, that are trafficking children, are more important than the families that live in the communities here. That includes Governor Pritzker, Mayor Johnson, and others who have worked so hard to protect these dangerous criminals. They'd rather be a sanctuary state and continue to put those individuals above American citizens who built this country, who've raised their families here for generations and just want to be able to walk down the street safely at night and put their kids to bed and live a peaceful life. Today, I'm highlighting 4 different examples of individuals that we've recently arrested here out of this office with the good work of ICE and our HSI officers that we've taken off the streets without the help of the governor or the mayor. Our federal officers have had to do this alone without their support, and these dangerous individuals are now no longer victimizing people because of the good work that we do. These individuals would still be out on our streets today, committing crimes, and Governor Pritzker and Mayor Johnson are answering that question every single day of who should be our priority, who should be our responsibility, and over again, they're choosing criminals.
A U.S. appeals court has...
Yeah, absolutely, Ms. Solstice. That it's all they let in between 15 and 18 million illegal aliens. That number, it's almost hard to imagine how many. Like there are several states that don't have that many people in them, and they've let that many people in this country, and they don't know who most of them are because they haven't. They never had their trial or their hearing yet. Supposed to have their hearing to say, hey, why are you here? So they all were sitting on a 2 to 3 year wait list to have that hearing. In the meantime, they're going around doing whatever they want, breaking any laws they want. And like somebody said earlier, I think it was Henry said that Don Lemon will just say, yeah, but they're misdemeanors, not a big deal.
Delivered a mixed ruling on the controversial deployment of National Guard troops in Illinois. The court ruled that hundreds of Guard members sent to Chicago can remain in the state, but cannot be deployed, largely upholding a lower court's halt of the mobilization ordered by President Donald Trump. In its decision, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Seventh Circuit stated, it is ordered that appellant's request for an administrative stay is granted as to the federalization of the National Guard and denied as to the deployment of the National Guard. The deployment involves 200 National Guard troops from Texas and 300 from Illinois, initially mobilized for a period of 60 days. The Trump administration had appealed a lower court ruling, arguing the troops were necessary to protect immigration agents and facilities amid mass deportation operations. The appellate decision means the deployment remains paused until further court hearings. Similar legal challenges are underway in other cities, including Portland, Oregon, where a judge temporarily blocked a National Guard mobilization, and Los Angeles, where California sued after troops were deployed earlier this year. The deployments have raised tensions in Latino communities, where ICE raids have sparked fear and uncertainty. Activist groups warn residents to be cautious, even if no raids are immediately visible in their neighborhoods. Recent protests at the Broadview ICE facility in Chicago's suburbs have turned violent, with demonstrators facing tear gas, arrests, and clashes with law enforcement.
See how they only point out that the demonstrators are the ones getting tear gas or whatever? They're the ones who are aggressing. They don't have to be there. They should be at work, to be honest with you. They don't have to be there. I don't think any of these people have jobs. I think this is their job. I think this is. Me and Mel are going to do a live on Antifa, and we're going to talk about this. But this is, it's
Critics say the use of the National Guard is an unnecessary escalation,
unnecessary,
while federal authorities insist it is essential to maintain order during immigration operations. As the legal battle continues, the status of National Guard troops in Chicago remains in limbo, highlighting the tensions between federal immigration enforcement and local communities concerned about civil liberties and safety.
They're not concerned. They're not. Miss Solstice, look at this. This is insane. Can I bring that up? Let's pull this down. There we go. Let's make this bigger. Estimates and official data. According to Pew, they estimated the total unauthorized immigrants, we'll just say illegals, was 14 million by the end of 2023. So that's a whole year that they didn't count. But what's interesting about this number is that's the ones we know about. We have no idea about what they used to call gotaways. They weren't even detected. They had no idea who these people were. So that was 14 million. And this is Google AI. So this is just the AI overview, but it gathers all the information from everywhere. The total reported encounters that they knew about was 10 million. And that's where they catch them and then release them into our country. Hey, where do you want to go? And give them a bus ticket. You want to catch a plane? Sure. Where do you want to go? New York? Yeah, go ahead. Have fun. We'll see you in 2-3 years. But yeah, the Pew Research alone had it at 14 million. It's definite. It has to be more than that. It has to be more than that. Yeah, undocumented, unauthorized. But that's all I got. These people. Hopefully, it's going to get to the Supreme Court and they're going to allow Trump to do it because it's not hard to prove that they're not doing anything about crime. It's pretty simple. And now that we have an actual, I'm going to say case law, we have an actual precedent, which was DC. They actually know it works. They're not going to be able to fight this all the way to the end. They're just trying to stall it out It's not going to work. Supreme Court at some point is going to say, all right, just let them in. Just let them in. They did it in DC. They're going to do it. And it was against Bowser's. Well, so there are differences. There are differences because DC is not a city or a state. So it's federal land. We'll see. It's going to be interesting because their first job is to protect their citizens, their constituents, and they're clearly not doing it. But yeah, that's all I got. So on one side, I have Miss Solstice, KMC. Thank you guys for coming over. Amber C came over the other side also. KTC, and Mafia Anthony. And then on this side, we had Henry, Mike Levin, Mel Dub. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you all. Miss Phoenix, as always. Amber C was over here also. Bad Guy took off. Appreciate you guys all for stopping by. I genuinely thank you. And Catcher Matta Jagger was in here. Miss Chicago. And that's everybody. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you. Turn that off and share this. Like it. Subscribe.